Hello everyone, welcome to A Garden a Day with Maidenbrock Gardens, where we explore the world one garden at a time. Today is July 20th. Today, dear listeners, we are going to do something a little different. I will tell you about a garden, of course, but first I will tell you a story. Once upon a time, many years ago, long before anyone alive today was born, there lived an old fisherman who had 12 sons and 3 daughters. They lived on the shore of the Baltic Sea. One day, the daughters decided to go swimming. When they returned to shore, the youngest daughter, Eglė, found a snake wriggling in the sleeve of her blouse. Eglė, very much wanting to get dressed and very much not wanting a snake in her blouse, heard a man's voice coming from the snake's mouth. "Marry me," he says, "and I'll leave you alone." "You're a snake. I'm not going to marry you," she cried. "I won't let you have your clothes if you don't promise to marry me," said the snake. "This cannot be happening," thought Eglė. "You're a snake. I'm human. Interspecies marriage is unheard of." "No marriage, no clothes," said the snake. All right, I'll marry you," said Eglė. "Just let me have my clothes." So the snake agreed and slithered away, and Eglė was able to dress and return home with her sisters. 3 days later, thousands of snakes slithered onto the lawn of the fisherman's cottage. "We are here for Eglė," they hissed. "She is to marry our master and become our queen." The fisherman and his daughters and sons were not about to let Eglė go with the snakes, so they came up with a plan. They would trick the snakes. First, they dressed up a goose and said to the snakes, "Here is Eglė, you may take her with you." The snakes, who of course have terrible eyesight, took the goose and made their way toward the seashore. A cuckoo sitting in a birch tree called out to the snakes, "Hey, snakes, where are you taking that goose?" "Goose?" hissed the snakes. "This isn't a goose, it's our new queen." But realizing they'd been tricked, they took the goose back to the fisherman and demanded Eglė. This time the fisherman and his daughters and sons dressed up a sheep and said to the snakes, "We apologize for trying to trick you. Here is Eglė. You may take her with you." But the cuckoo was still sitting on a branch of that birch tree when the snakes slithered by and called out to them, "Hey, snakes! Do you know you're carrying a sheep?" The snakes, incensed, hissed, "You've got to be kidding me," and took the sheep back to the fisherman. This time the fisherman and his daughters and sons dressed up a cow and said to the snakes, "We obviously can't trick you. You found us out. Here is Eglė. You may take her with you." And off the snakes went with the cow. The cuckoo, you guessed it, was still in the birch tree. "Hey, snakes, this time they gave you a cow." The snakes were furious. They returned to the fisherman and, enraged as they were, swore vengeance on the fisherman if he didn't give them Eglė. "First, we will send drought. Then we will send floods. Then there will be famine," they hissed. The fisherman, believing the snakes and worried about the future of his family, reluctantly handed Eglė to the snakes. Eglė was frightened. The snakes took her to the seashore, but instead of finding the snake from her blouse, Eglė was met by a handsome prince named Žilvinas. They married and feasted for 3 weeks and lived under the sea in a beautiful palace. They had 3 sons they named Oak, Ash, and Birch, and a daughter they named Aspen. Eglė, by the way, means spruce. Eglė the Serpent Queen was happy. She had almost forgotten her home with her father and sisters and brothers. But then, one day, her eldest son, Oak, began asking questions about Eglė's childhood. This made Eglė homesick, and she desired to go back to the fisherman's cottage. The Serpent Prince, now king, had an idea of what would happen to his family if Eglė returned to the fisherman's cottage, so he devised 3 impossible tasks. If Eglė could complete the tasks, she could go, but if she could not complete the tasks, she must remain at the undersea palace. First, she would need to spin a bolt of silk that would never end. Second, she would have to wear a hole in the bottom of a pair of iron shoes. And third, she would have to bake a pie without the use of utensils. Eglė at first knew she could not achieve these tasks and almost gave up the pursuit. But then, she had an idea. She consulted with the neighborhood sorceress, who gave her advice for completing each task. All her work done, the Serpent King had no choice but to allow Eglė to take their children to visit the fisherman's cottage. Before they left, the king said to his wife, "When you want to return to the sea, call out for me, and I will get you. Say, 'Gilvinas, dear Gilvinas, if you're alive, may the sea foam milk. If you're dead, may the sea foam blood. When I hear you, I will come for you.'" After agreeing, Eglė and the children set off for the fisherman's cottage. When Eglė and the children arrived at the cottage, the fisherman, his 12 sons, and 2 daughters were overjoyed to see their long-lost relatives. The 12 sons decided they would not let Eglė and the children return to the sea, and they decided to kill Gilvinas. First, they approached oak, ash, and birch. They wanted to know how to summon their father. The boys would not give up the secret. The uncles threatened and beat the boys, but still the boys kept silent. Then the uncles approached Aspen. She was frightened of the uncles and told them the verse right away. The uncles went to the seashore and called out, "Gilvinas, dear Gilvinas, if you're alive, may the sea foam milk. If you're dead, may the sea foam blood." Gilvinas, not knowing he was being summoned by the treacherous uncles, appeared right away. He gave a good fight, but it was 12 against 1, and Gilvinas was killed. Eglė did not know about any of these goings-on, and after 9 days of visiting, she went to the seashore to call her husband to take her and their children home. She called out, "Gilvinas, dear Gilvinas, if you're alive, may the sea foam milk. If you're dead, may the sea foam blood." Right away, the sea turned red, and she knew that her husband was dead. Her husband's voice came to her and told her what happened. When she learned of the betrayal, she whispered a spell which turned her frightened daughter into a quaking aspen tree. Then she whispered another spell which turned her strong sons into a strong oak, a strong ash, and a strong birch. She then turned herself into a spruce. And to this day, if you visit the seaside town of Palanga, you will find these 5 trees standing tall along the shore. And if you visit today's garden, Palanga Botanical Garden, you will find a bronze statue of Eglė, the Serpent Queen. The garden was created in 1897 for Count Félix Tishkevich and was designed by French landscape designer Édouard François André. There are approximately 500 different types of plants in the garden. About 370 of the plants are native to Lithuania, and 24 of those are considered rare. The entire garden spans close to 250 acres and includes a stunning and romantic oval rose garden, several fountains and statues, and access to a beach and sand dunes. Palanga is a popular seaside tourist destination. The Count's former manor on site is today the Palanga Amber Museum. The garden is open daily from 8 a.m. until 7 p.m. through the summer months until September 30th. I don't know if there are autumn and winter hours. I couldn't find that information. But that's about it for today's garden visit. I hope you've enjoyed this slightly different episode. Let me know what you think in the comments or leave me a review. Join me here tomorrow to find out where we're going next. Thank you for listening today and every day, and if all goes well, I'll be right back here tomorrow. See you then.